Hi there, my name's Andrew Cobin. I'm a board certified specialist in estate planning and probate law, and I want to talk today about living trusts. But before we get to that, let's talk about what a trust is. A trust is just a contract. Depending on the terms of the contract, it produces different results, and depending on those results, attorneys give the trust different names. Now, the most common type of trust we have out there is a trust called a revocable living trust. Now, some attorneys call it just a living trust. Others might call it a revocable trust agreement. But no matter what the name is, what's significant about the living trust is that we have three distinct characteristics. So characteristic number one, the trust is revocable and amendable during your lifetime. So you create the trust, and as the trust creator, you have the ability to make changes to the trust and to do away with the trust entirely if you want to. The second important aspect is that you can move your assets, your property, etc., in and out of the trust, right? So you can freely retitle your assets into the trust. Assets that are in the trust, you can retitle them out of the trust, right? So you retain complete control of the title of your assets. The third thing that is remarkable about this is that because you hold the power to revoke the trust and amend the trust, and because you can move your property in and out of the trust, the treasury regulations direct that you are not taxed any differently, right? So you would continue to file your 1040 the same way you always have. You would continue to keep the Social Security number associated with a bank account or a brokerage account, etc., that may be titled in the trust. You would keep that all the same. So effectively what happens is that we create this trust. We generally name the people who created the trust creators. We name them as the trustee, right? So you go on living your life the same way you always have. The only difference you notice is that when you receive a statement from the bank or from the brokerage firm, it's going to refer to you as a trustee instead of as the individual. That's it. By and large, you still use your same checks as you have before. You still keep the same account numbers. You still do your online banking the way you always have. But now, in this living trust type arrangement, the title to your assets are inside of the trust. So why would we want to do that? Well, the benefit of having this trust and putting your assets titled into the trust is that it makes things extremely easy. Or easier. I don't want to necessarily say things are ever easy, but certainly easier than if they weren't inside the trust, right? Because if the title of the assets is inside the trust and you become incapacitated, now whoever is identified as the successor trustee, so that was something that we would name inside of the trust, that individual can now step into your shoes and start managing your assets on your behalf when you can no longer do so. The other big advantage of this is that because the assets are titled inside of the trust, upon your death, the trust directs what happens to your estate, what happens to those assets, instead of having to rely on a will, okay? So that's one of the biggest pitches attorneys have for these trusts is that it helps avoid the court process to change title of your assets from you as the deceased individual to your heirs. Right? We don't have to go through that court process because title's not in your name, title's inside of the trust. The trust directs what happens to those assets. So that certainly is a big advantage. That certainly makes things easier, more efficient. But there are a host of other aspects of the trust that are advantageous as well. So I'm going to leave it there for today. There is a lot of ground to cover about probate. You know, what is that process if you don't have the trust? About some of these advantages to the trust. But you can see kind of from the start why this might be a great tool to use. It's certainly not a tool for everyone in every circumstance. But by and large, if you're looking to transfer your assets in a way that is efficient and in a way that is advantaged to the people who receive those assets, the living trust is a great tool to use. So thanks for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you again to talk about some of these other exciting topics in estate planning. Have a great day. If you liked what you heard today and found it as fascinating as I do, Feel free to share it with a friend by clicking on the link below. Or if you'd like to learn more or speak with one of our qualified estate attorneys, visit us on the web at ncestateplanning.com. Thanks again for joining us and look forward to seeing you again soon.